Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Are you interested in midterm or medium-term rentals? They're getting more and more popular, and they're definitely a thing now. If you want to know about that, this episode is definitely for you. Before we get there, I just want to remind you that we have 10-minute video clips on my YouTube channel at Jonathan Green RE. It's a great way to see us and get just about 4 highlight clips from every episode. And then you can go back, listen to the whole episode, do it in whatever order you want. This week, my guest is James Hwang. He had started from nothing and now is on his way to building a very big medium-term rental portfolio. He's going to tell you all about how he did it, what he looks for, and how he has scaled this business. Let's go. This is episode 130 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, James Hwang. James is a midterm rental aficionado. That's how it started, because he's gone crazy in this space. Oncology pharmacist by day, real estate investor by night, and that really means renovating real estate projects at night. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you and glad we met. It's so funny. We live right near each other, but didn't I meet you for the first time at BP? We were connected on social, but we bumped into each other at BPCon in October.
Yeah, exactly. When I saw you, I think outside of one of the sessions, I was telling one of my partners, Frank, I was like, oh, that's Jonathan Green. I got to go talk to him, but he's on his phone. All right, let me just give him a second because I don't want to bombard him. But I was like, no, I have to talk to him. There's not a lot of people that are bigger in the bigger pocket space that also are local to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I gotta.
I'm glad. I was probably just using my phone to try to have other people not talk to me. But then I knew you. I knew your face from Instagram. I'm like, wait, I know you. So that was really good. And I think that we were talking when we were there. It's like you understand the scale of real estate investing when you go to an event like that. Was that your first major event, or had you been to ones before that?
No, that was my first major one. So it was like a good bucket list item.
Yeah. And I just think I found more like everyone was connected and really interested in investing. And that was the thing that becomes interesting to me as we think more about events and how you nurture relationships, which you've done early on in being in investing. But when was the first time that you remember thinking that real estate was going to be a part of your future?
So it probably goes back during the pandemic when, we're all shut down and stuff. And I had some coworkers who mentioned, bigger pockets and real estate investing. And so that's when, the ball started to kind of roll for me. But before all of that, my life was just completely on one side of the spectrum where my parents, we've house hacked a duplex for over 30 years, but that's also come with nothing but problems and all these other issues, and they used to own their own dry cleaning business, and that's been tough. So what I've seen was a lot of struggle and a lot of stress and stuff like that. So I wanted the complete opposite. So I was very conservative in my finances and never wanted to start a business like my parents, never wanted to be a landlord. All I wanted was to have enough money so I could just ride off into the sunset with as little stress as possible. And that was something that that was kind of my ethos. I just want to be calm, cool, and collected and not worry about anything.
Yeah.
And so when people start talking about real estate investing and being a landlord and all this stuff, it was completely alien to me. It's everything that I didn't stand for, and once I started, talking about, rental properties and how it can kind of change your life and introducing me to bigger pockets, that's when I started listening to the podcasts, went down the rabbit hole of YouTube books and boot camps and everything to gain knowledge. And then, then you start having all these light bulb moments. It's not that I had one thing that
Right.
happened to me that all of a sudden, I had to start taking action. But it was just hearing all the stories of everyone else who just seemed like they're just regular people.
Yeah. Well, also with a full-time job, you knew like you had this job, you weren't planning on leaving the job right away. So it was probably part of for you like, wait, you can do this. You have the time. But what was it about the property that your parents owned that made you say like, yeah, real estate, this doesn't seem good. Like what were those problems and now how do you avoid that in what you do? Because I think that's an important scale to the story.
So my dad had some help when he first purchased, the property. Someone gave him this, 10 or 12 page lease. But my parents being immigrants, not understanding how to read and write Korean, anything other than Korean or
Yeah.
even Spanish, they just could not understand the entire lease process, right? And so my dad was afraid that if someone asks him a question about something on page 3, he doesn't know how to answer it, right? And so he never had any of guidelines or anything like that. So what he did was he took the very first page of the lease, and that became his lease. And that's it, just like the front
Took
cover.
off the left 11, the 11 pages.
Yeah, exactly. And, with that comes with, a lot of trouble, like tenants that are not paying. He doesn't know what to do when rent is late. Just operating as a landlord, you just never had that guidance. So then just seeing like the stress and, like parents, they kind of like shelter you from everything. But as a kid, I was still able to see.
Yeah.
And so that was like, no, I don't want that, like for my life. It's like, what benefit is there if that is the result,
Yeah. It's interesting though, because they really had the right idea, to buy the multifamily. That was a strong idea, probably still a good investment, but they didn't put the processes in place, which is one of the things that you're really good at. So, I mean, you can still take from that. Are they going to learn anything from you in this now?
They probably will.
Yeah.
They retired last June. And, when I was renovating my first house and all that stuff, they were actually discouraging me from going into all that stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't believe me at all. Even when I told my dad, I'm going to learn how to DIY renovate and I want to buy a rental property and do that small multifamily. He said, no. I said, no, I'm telling you, I'm going to do this. And he said, no, you're not. I said, no, I don't know if there's a language barrier. He said, no, you're not going to do it because you don't have the skills. You don't have the knowledge. You don't even have tools. How are you going to do something? And I was like, okay, so like this is what
challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it probably helped that you weren't also saying that with, and I'm leaving my job as a pharmacist.
Yeah. And so, I think parents always want like the best for like their kids and they don't want them to have like a life of struggle. And in the end, that's like what it was all about. But after seeing me complete, like the full cycle of everything and seeing kind of like the quick success that I found afterwards, all of a sudden, like the tune kind of changed and it said, why are you taking so long? Because since you're taking so long, like it's holding me back from investing in a property with you. And so it complete 180 flip and, it's been like pretty fun. It's been interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting though. And I've had several people whose parents immigrated to the country and had not necessarily a scarcity mentality, but for their children, they were like, hey, stay in the W-2, like lock it in, do as best you can. But then once they see that you've put in these certain systems into your new business, then they're working, then they already trust you. They just wanted to make sure you weren't going to like ruin what they taught you, just to be a little bit safer.
Yeah, exactly. It's been like a wild journey. And I think like they're able to trust me not knowing, like they don't see the day to day. They don't know how I got from point A to Z, but they see that I got to point Z.
Yeah.
Right? And they see that I've built systems or magically things are happening and everything is pretty much good. So it's easy for them to kind of trust knowing that like I just have access to way more resources and information, and so it's not the same type of playing field. And I think they recognize that. And so it's easy for them to, trust that things are going to work out.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the first property. How did you figure out what you were going to buy at the time and where did the money come from? Because that's always, I think, for first investment, you're trying to figure out how am I going to finance this or what am I going to do? And then what was the vision? Because then we'll go where it went, which might not have been the same vision.
Yeah. So I immediately knew I wanted to buy a small multifamily. And in my head, back when you're listening to all these podcasts and people are saying, oh yeah, I bought a 4-family, I bought a 4-family, bought a 4-family. I'm thinking, oh, that's what I want. And the numbers always look much better that way, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, using the realtor at the time, I drew a map of, pretty much Bergen County, because I had my non-negotiable was I'm driving to the city every single day for work. So my commute time is extremely important, and I need parking because I obviously have a car. And, plus I want like a quad. You're not going to see that in Bergen County.
Yeah.
And eventually, I was told you need
and
to
if you
keep
did, that price point be pretty steep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I was just told, keep an open mind, just you can figure everything out like along the way. But if you pigeonhole yourself into this small box, you're never going to be able to buy anything. And so we stumbled upon a triplex in Bloomfield, and that listing in particular only had 3 pictures. 2 of them were the same pictures of the back of the house, and 1 was the front. And so it
Real
was
estate agents at their best.
It was crazy. And the thing is, like, at least the first floor, it was a triplex, and the first floor was very presentable. So I don't even know why they didn't even put any pictures. But you know what? That's like the case. And we went under contract December of 2021, I believe. So it was still during like the crazy, you got same day offers and stuff. And by then I got really good at analyzing properties and learning how to evaluate, like the markets and all that stuff. And so it was the very first property that turned green in the calculator, and I was like, oh my God, it
works. Yeah.
That's crazy. But there's also a reason why it's, it works out. And that's because it needed so much renovation. But yeah, so like, I was able to get the funding for that through the stock market, actually. And so when the market started to tank, I had money saved up and I just threw that into my Robinhood account. And next thing I know, it's just skyrocketing like crazy. And so with all the knowledge that I was gaining and then just seeing like the money piling up, I said, you know what, this is the opportunity for me. I'm in a good situation. I obviously have like a good paying job. And so my worst case scenario is still really good.
Yeah.
And, that's how, we got the money for that and put in the offer in 2 days later and got it accepted. And then like all hell kind of like broke loose.
Yeah. Well, though, let me ask you this, because I think this is important for all investors. When you got the first offer accepted, did you have like oh, wait, what did I just get myself into moment? Or were you just like full steam ahead?
Oh, no, I was panicking from the start. Actually, I started panicking as soon as like the realtor had sent me everything to e-sign. And it's like a standard contract, right? And it's like, it's nothing to it during attorney reviews when everything gets, fixed. And I was reading everything line by line.
That's why I have a video. I have a 26-minute video on it just so people can watch the video, skip the 9 pages that have nothing to do with anything.
And then with the pressure of, we got to get the offer in, I was, I hit this peak emotional state, and I never came down from it for like the next 3-4 months. It was kind of like torturous in a sense.
Yeah.
There were so many lessons that I've learned throughout that journey that I'm, always preaching to everyone else. So even though it was so stressful for me and, like crazy, it was 100% worth it. And now it's like a different story after going through like a, few cycles.
Yeah. But that's so helpful though, because I think obviously like, we're both looking around on social media a lot. You see it and it makes like, oh yeah, first time, properties, no problem. It's nice and easy. It's nice to hear someone say like, no, for 3 months, I was a basket case. It wasn't good. You probably wanted to quit, but once the money's in, you're like, well, I can't get out of this. So how did you make the best of those 3 months that were so stressful?
Well, number one was going to real estate meetups up until that point and making as many friends as possible and trying to find everyone that was in my stage of the process or even one step ahead, whether they just finished renovations, they just got their first tenants in, or they're looking for their second property. There's still a lot of things that they can relate to as for me coming in for the first time because they were just doing that 6 months ago or 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Whereas if I were connecting with people that own 10, 12, 15 properties, there's a level of like disconnect where their answers to me will be like, oh, just do this or just do that, and very casual. Whereas, when I was building all these friendships with other people that were in the same process as me, their answers were a lot deeper, and so the roots of the relationships that I was building was way more deeply rooted. And that's when I started to think differently. And having all of these additional resources, even though most of my friends were quote unquote newbies at the time, the fact that we were all doing it together and asking my other friends, hey, can you ask your other friends? And kind of branching off, that is what kind of changed the game. And I saw the value of building relationships and leveraging that. And also some of the friends that I've built along the way, one of them, he's like a New York City electrician. So any electrical issues, I can go to him. Or one of my partners now, he is like an electrical savant, in my eyes, And so he just has all of this knowledge. So just tapping into his knowledge or other people and stuff. So, being able to find people who can leverage their own skills, whether it's from their W-2 job or from the skills that they've built, and then having that become part of the solutions and the options that you have to figure out problems has just been like a complete game changer. And ultimately it just comes down to like having more resources, but having to first get out of your comfort zone and seek those out and really build meaningful relationships that are not just like the surface level stuff where I'm just occasionally going to say hi. I was doing things where, let's say, like with my friend Gabe, I was like, hey, can I take out your garbage? Like, I don't have any skills that I can offer, but if you need an extra hand, I'll do that. If you have garbage, leave it, I'll take it,
That's
kind
awesome.
of like
That's a great lesson, though, for people. I think, and obviously you know this more now, but I think one of the hardest parts and one of the really important parts of you building that kind of everybody in the same proximity of where they're at helps because you have a full sounding board. And it is hard when you're brand new to try to get a mentor who has 20 units because, like you said, they're going to tell you how they did it. It may not be the way that you want to do it. And then you feel like you can't really have as much back and forth as you can with this whole group of everyone learning at the same level. But yeah, that's really important to be able to just say, hey, look, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to do some stuff to help you just to get into some properties. That's a really great tip for people because I think, one, you brought up before also, everybody has a skill set. And if you don't have a skill set that's specific to this project, like you said, go for garbage, pick up at Home Depot. There's lots of things that you can do that will then benefit you because you bring the stuff, then you stay an hour, see what's going on. Is that how it worked out for you?
100%, and then always giving 7 times, 10 times more than actually receiving. Because that one time that you do need help, that friend is going to come, to your rescue or whatever, and you're going to be so grateful for it. And like one of my friends, like Harry, we used to do a lot of things together. I would help him out and all that stuff. And he was maybe like 1 or 2 steps behind me. And then, there was this one day I just really, really needed sheetrock, but I didn't have a truck or anything. Home Depot is only 4 minutes away, but I don't want to pay $100 for like delivery for 2 pieces of sheetrock. So I called him up and he was like, oh, I have this new truck that I bought. Of course, let's go. And, he delivered it to me and all that stuff. We got it together. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what this means to me. I'm having a crisis right now. And you totally, saved me from that. And he was like, no, like, I'm so grateful that I was able to even help you, that I finally got an opportunity to do something for you because you're always doing things for me. Right. And so like that type of those moments are when you really realize all the relationship building, the late nights and the communication and the support really, really makes a difference. And even more so if it's someone who's like a first timer, those moments and the roots that you build are way, way, way deeper because it's way more meaningful. When you're starting out, no one really helps you out. But then if you have people that are going out of their way, it just means like the world. I mean, it meant the world to me. So I know it would mean the world to other people too. Yeah. And along with way, what we've done is I just gathered all the different friends and all that stuff, and we actually just created like our own little community. So now when it's going to snow, people are like, hey, by the way, did you look at the weather? It's going to be 3 to 4 inches. And we're like, oh, okay. Who has, snow removal guys? Who are you using? Who are you using for that stuff? So now we actually have this small community where we're all just leveraging each other's skills, our contractors, our tools, everything. And so it's kind of been growing into something really cool, and it's just like priceless at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I don't think you could have done it if you weren't coming from a giving mentality first, because the worst thing is for somebody to come with an ask who's never done anything for you. Like, you've never asked anyone, and then one day you're like, I really need a sheetrock, so I'm just going to start asking everyone. But that's not a good relationship builder. You had already built up, so somebody can say, yeah, I'd love to, no problem. You've done a lot of favors for me, and that back and forth. You can see that. Can you see it now? Like exponentially, it's probably grown just to now. You're doing bigger projects. Other people are doing bigger projects. So you said you can share some resources there, but take this out 5 years, could be astronomical in terms of the help and the resources and kind of the clustering that you can do as investors near each other.
And honestly, I've already seen the fruits of that tenfold, even with the midterm rental business that we have, we're working together with literally my friends.
Yeah.
And so some of these are properties that we have, others are arbitrages, or we're helping to manage their units. And so we were able to grow also because, we were helping our friends out too. And they were like, hey, why don't you just manage this as a midterm rental for me? And it's like, cool. There's already a trust factor. They know our standards. And if anything, it's allowed us to grow even faster.
Yeah.
And so it's been just truly a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, it's Jonathan. This is a brief interlude from the episode so I can talk to you about the fact that my real estate team, the on-market version, we just changed brokerages. So now we're at Real, which is Real Broker, LLC, and it is a progressive brokerage. We're super excited to be there. And one thing about what we do is we are an on-market, investor-friendly real estate team. So you're probably here because you're interested in real estate investing, or you're an experienced real estate investor. We work with hundreds of real estate investors because we are focused on understanding investor dynamics. 99% of real estate agents don't understand what investors are looking for. We do. It's my background, and I bring it to my team every single day. So if you are looking for investor assistance in the state of New Jersey, we have you covered. Parts of New York, good. A little bit of a part of Nevada, all good. Also, if you don't know an investor-friendly agent in your area and you need help, just reach out to us. We will connect you. We have investor-friendly friends who are agents all over the country. Let's get back to the show. So with the first 3 family, what was your intent? Were you thinking midterm rental? Because it was peaking then. It was just starting to be a thing.
Yeah. So back then, there weren't too many resources. And in order for you to learn about midterm rentals and all that stuff, you had to go from, you would get small snippets of information from these random resources, YouTube content, or there were no books at that time.
Yeah, it was the end of 2021. 30-day stay wasn't even out yet. That was in 2023 even, maybe, or end of 2022, I think.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I know Sarah and Ziana, and I used to DM with them all the time, or even Jesse Vasquez and all these other people before they kind of blew up. And so I was already part of that midterm rental operator community, and it was just really small.
Yeah.
But, when I first saw that triplex, I had heard about midterm rentals, a little bit anyways, but it wasn't something that I was taking into consideration seriously, because, when everyone's starting out, you're always thinking long-term rentals, right? You don't want to be a rookie and just go right into short-term rentals. And so I was just thinking long-term rentals along the way. And then when I saw that triplex was literally 2 minutes from a hospital, I was like, you know what? I think the 3rd floor unit, it's a small 1-bedroom, that could probably be a midterm rental one day. And so I just tucked that into the back of my head. And, it was a fully vacant 3-family house that all 3 units needed work, a lot of work. That's why the numbers worked out so good, because, it needed that much work. And so we renovated the third floor, second floor, and put long-term tenants in there. And then with the last unit, the entire process just took so long. And so my original intent was to house hack. A year later, like I'm still not even done.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Let's just furnish it. Let's, put some furniture in there. Let's try out this whole midterm rental thing. And, had our first midterm rental tenant I think it was like 3 weeks before we even finished. And I was sending her pictures of, please excuse the drills and all this construction equipment.
Yeah.
But you notice some of the furniture that we started furnishing with. And so, even with that, I was able to get my first midterm rental tenant. And then like the rest is kind of history. But originally the intent was, just to be a long-term rental, hold on to it for however many years, use the equity to buy like the next property, kind of go on towards that like, projection. And then, never in my wildest dreams did I think that this whole thing that I tucked in the back of my head called midterm rentals would actually become a thing, and actually become like a business operation for us too. And, I think I was just open-minded to everything.
Yeah.
I think if we just have too much tunnel vision and we're not willing to adapt or change or pivot even, you'll do okay. But I think like the more open we are to like being challenged, and I've always kind of been that person where I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out somehow. And I'm okay if I'm wrong, I'm okay, but I want to at least go ahead and try and make an attempt. And, that's just been, so that resulted in a lot of rewarding things, thereafter.
Yeah. So how much is the differential between like your regular rent? Just take this first 3 family and what you were getting in midterm. Is it a 2x, a 4x? Because that I think is what people are really interested in. Obviously, you wouldn't do it if it was just a 1x, because then it's easier to just have one tenant. But midterm solves that problem of longer term tenants. So over the term, you're going to have less turnover. And I believe, I'm sure we're going to talk about like midterm rental tenants, they're pretty solid. Not going to be much of a problem, especially if you dealt with a lot of travel nurses. And then we'll talk about insurance as well. But what's the income differential between your long-term rent and then midterm?
So using my very first midterm rental, like as an example, so it's a first floor, 1 bedroom with the sunroom that I converted the sunroom into like a reading nook and like an exercise area on the other half. And then I put in-unit laundry, and it also has 1 off-street parking space in the back of the house. And so effectively that essentially kind of becomes like a premium midterm rental, because there are non-negotiables that some people have, like I need to park my car, or I need in-unit laundry, or whatever it may be. And so at the time when I finished renovations, it probably would have gone for about $1,800 a month as a long-term rental. There have been months when I collected $3,000. And
so you're at a 1.5-ish to 1.7-ish, multiple on that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, so like sometimes 1.75, 1.8, whatever it may be. And so for me, the way that I looked at it was actually kind of going back to my goals, or rewinding a little bit. I had a goal of I wanted to self-manage 20 long-term rental doors, not properties, but just 20 doors, right? And so that was my goal. And I figured, you know what, this would be a good jumpstart into me building systems in order for me to get to that point where I could manage all these doors through, standard operating procedures, using technology, proper management software, automations, and all that stuff. And so I was okay, even if I made less money, and just dealing with turnover and just becoming good at those processes, because I knew that ultimately if midterm rentals didn't work out for me, I have goals of scaling, with long-term rentals, and this would help me jumpstart, doing things like the right way. Yeah. So like I even told other people, like, listen, if you're going to be buying rental property, small multifamily and all that stuff, number one, don't underwrite it as a midterm rental. You always need to have a backup first and foremost. I'm not going to tell you how much you can make as a midterm rental operator, because it also changes drastically. We have a lot more properties now, and we actually benefit from being at scale. And so we have a lot more leads that come in. We can move people around.
Right.
We can charge higher prices and all these other things. But if you're going to go into it, from the beginning, number one, you underwrite it as a long-term rental. Are you okay, especially with these rates and prices, especially in New Jersey?
Yeah. Taxes.
We talk about it all the time. It's crazy. Are you okay with negative cash flow? Because if you're going to buy something now and you're not putting 20, 25% down plus, you're going to have negative cash flow. And you need to determine what that is for you, because this is going to be a complete equity play, and any cash flow thereafter, because you turn it into midterm rental, is going to be a complete bonus. And that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah.
So what I actually tell people is, number one, it depends on the units. We have a ton of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and we also are now getting into 3 bedroom space. And so we have a good sample size of what you can make in our direct market. We have the receipts, the proof, right?
Yeah.
But underwrite it as a long-term rental, see what is acceptable to you. And then you can come see me and I can give you a number on what you may make as a midterm rental, but I need how many bed and bath and all that stuff. What's the laundry situation? Is there a fenced in backyard? Will you be allowing pets? Is there parking? If it's street parking only, are they going to need a parking permit? Are they going to have to pay? And all these other things. But I ultimately, at the very, very end, I tell them, if you are okay making 1.3 to 1.4 times your long-term rents after 12 months of operating, because you have to look at it as operating for 1 year at a time instead of month to month.
Yeah.
If you are okay with that number, then, perhaps you should seriously consider midterm rentals, and you'll be okay when you have these longer vacancy gaps. You're not going to be all nervous about,
Right.
all that, because, after 12 months, you've made more.
Yeah. Those are great points. And I think if you look at the scale of it, you talked about the potential for negative cash flow, which people outside of New Jersey or New York are probably like, well, that sounds ridiculous. Why would I do that? Because we have skyrocketing appreciation. But that's a really good midterm and short term are good hedges against negative cash flow, because you can upgrade your cash flow in the units. Did you end up doing all 3 of those units in that original building as midterm?
No. So the second and third floor, I still have long-term tenants. On the second floor, I have 2 girls that are PhD students, and they're graduating this year.
Yeah.
They did, they pay on auto pay. So I use property manager software for everything. They set it on auto pay.
Yeah.
They don't think about it. I don't think about it. All of it, I did some heavy due diligence, and so I have wonderful tenants. Take out the garbage. They shovel the snow.
Yeah.
They take care of everything, right? They clean.
But I think that's one of the lures of the multiple units, especially as you get higher, is that you can hybridize your own property. You can take 2 long-term rentals because somebody needs it and they're good tenants. They're going to be solid. You'll never have to talk to them at all. There's no changeover. You know what to expect. And then you take the 1 unit, and then that 1 unit can tell you when those other 2 leases are up, is there more demand? Like you said, maybe you don't have as many units as you have now. And then you're thinking, well, it would be nice. A couple of times we almost had a double booking. It would have been cool if I could have said, well, I have a unit upstairs. That's what you've done on a larger scale with your units all in the similar area, right?
Yep, exactly. And so also kind of going back to the 2 girls that are graduating that live in the second floor, I wanted to, I still want to be a good landlord at the end of the day. I don't want to put my own personal profits above, tenants who are living here, right? At the end of the day, everyone is human. Moving from place to place or even getting rent increases, it's not something that, is easy to deal with. And so there's a real part of being a landlord and having the privilege of being able to charge rent, right? And so I want to do the right thing all the time as much as possible. So when I had opportunities to maybe convert to midterm, I didn't. I kept them. And it's been good because I've been so busy with everything else that turning into yet another midterm rental would have just, caused a lot of stress. But, I think they may be moving out this summer. If they do, then I'll turn into midterm rental because I obviously have that option.
Yeah.
But, I also realized I like the combination of long-term and midterm, especially if you have outstanding long-term rental tenants. They're paying rent on time, they're taking care of the properties, and you don't really think about them, assuming, they're not problem tenants to begin with, people that you vetted. But having that consistency of knowing every single month that money is coming in and then dealing with the variables of your midterm rental rents, it's kind of like a good peace of mind. And the cash flow from my first triplex is a lot of money. And so for me, it doesn't make it or break it for me to not convert from long-term to midterm for the other units. As soon as I do that, then the really, really good cash flow turns into amazing cash flow.
Yeah.
But, I'm in a good spot and there's no need for me to, stir the pot and all that stuff. So
yeah, that's really good insight, because I think that some landlords, many across the country, have just made mistakes on thinking like, I want a good tenant no matter what. I don't care if they're paying a little bit less. If it's a good tenant and you can lock them in, like you said, it's something you don't have to worry about, so you can focus on other things. You're really going to do all that for like $100 more a month. It's $1,200 a year. That's good. Not saying that's not good extra money, but you really want to displace a tenant, put it on the market, go through vetting tenants, all to make an extra $100 a month when that tenant was fine. And now they have to go find another place. I really agree with you. I think it's good insight and it's good training for landlords to say, like, listen, we're trying to do this as a business, but part of that business involves the people that are caretaking your homes. Like you said, the better that we can treat them, the better they'll treat the property. We're all on the same page. And then it's easy when they want to go. They tell you way in advance and you say, hey, are you open to, showing it before you go? And then usually you can still get it rented before and then do touch-ups.
Yeah, exactly. And actually my leases, I have it saying for my long-term tenants that, the landlord has up to, like lease renewals have to occur 3 months before they leave. And so that gives me 3 months. And I actually put in that, landlords is allowed to do up to 3 showings. And so all those things I've like prepared ahead of time, just, in case. But yeah, it's like a real situation where it's easy to be detached as like a landlord versus tenant. And I think especially as investors, you're always looking at numbers and performance and metrics and all these things, because you have to have your own bills paid at the end of the day. But there's just like a fine line between your own profits versus the livelihood of other people. And if we were on the other end of the spectrum, I think, whenever our own taxes go up, we kind of complain about that, right? Yeah. So same thing. It's just rent, as like a tenant.
Yeah, it's good perspective though. So how did you start to grow this? Because I know now there's a lot, and I definitely want to get into arbitrage because that's something that I think people are confused about. When we talked about it on the meetup a couple of weeks ago, I was really impressed with that strategy. So let's just talk about the growth from the 3 to more, and then also get into arbitrage.
Yeah, so I ended up getting a HELOC on that triplex because I did so much work to it, plus the market went crazy. So it was easy for me to get, the HELOC, and I used that as like the down payment and closing costs for my duplex that I closed in October of 2023. And then on the second floor of that duplex, I renovated in a way that I know would be perfect for the midterm rental tenant, and making sure I'm adding laundry and all these other amenities. And, I actually had that lease signed at 3 or 4 weeks before we even completed. I sent her a video of, hey, we actually just finished deep cleaning of like our renovations, and this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
But we have the benefit of the economies of scale, where she actually reached out about a different one bedroom that just didn't happen to be like the best fit for her.
Yeah.
But she saw like our website and all of our listings. And so she was able to trust the quality of the listings and like the rentals that we have. So she essentially, not necessarily blindly, but, she signed a lease and all that stuff without even knowing. And that actually happened to us about at least like 4 times now too, where now we're able to get bookings before we even finish. But that's because we have, the economies of scale and this proof of concept that they can visually see.
So the 2-family that you bought, that was planned to both go midterm right away?
No. So a combination of long and midterm.
Oh, nice. This is good. This is really good for people because I like the hybrid inside because it's just hedging your bets on what it is. And like you said, you are going to have more vacancy with midterm. It capitalizes itself from the amount that you get on the 1.7x, but you're still going to have times where it's vacant. And then, some people are like, well, I could have used this, can someone do a party here or something? It's like, just relax. You're getting more than the rent anyway.
Yeah. And so even with like the duplex, when I first found it and all that stuff, I wasn't so keen on it too much. I knew it had opportunities for all these amenities that would make it a great midterm rental. But, initially when I was just touring all these houses, I wasn't so keen on it. So that first floor it's like a first floor and basement. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath on the first floor, and the basement kind of has it's an opportunity to turn it into a bedroom if I wanted to. There is a full bath down there too. So it's a corner property with 2 side yards, and one of the yards is already fenced in and has access to that first floor. So then after I left the house, because I'm always thinking, even when I'm underwriting, I'm still going to think long-term rents. I know what I can do midterm, but I don't want that to distract me and just buy, like the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so once I turned on that MTR brain, I realized, so as a long term, it's a 2-2, but as a midterm, that's actually a 3-2 with a fenced in yard for the dog, that will be staying, that is highly sought after amenity.
Yeah.
Not a lot of these midterm rentals in our area have even fenced in yards, let alone allow pets to begin with. And then, the first floor bathroom, everything needs to be kind of like gut renovated, but the first floor bathroom can have a walk-in shower instead to accommodate those who are elderly or less mobile to have a walk-in shower. And you can still have your bathtub in the basement for, let's say, if there's young kids or families that need a tub. And so laundry already in there, there's parking, don't need any permits for street parking. And so it was all these check boxes started to go off. But I also knew that I won't be able to turn that unit into midterm rental until a little bit later. And so as a result, I'm not going to be positively cash flowing as soon as I buy this property. But it's okay because my first property cash flows me plenty, so I never have to dip into my W-2 income.
Yeah.
I can keep rolling that in. And then later on, let's say if rates drop, I'll refinance. And, when they're both midterm rentals and the rates drop, then obviously it's a completely different story. But I was still okay with the fact that I might have negative 400 cash flow or something like that. But it was okay because I'm still leveraging my triplex. And even if I had to dip into my W-2 for that, I'm okay. I have all my finances in order. And I think that's like the most important thing, because otherwise for me, it's not that risky. But for a lot of other people, it could very well be, risky. Let's say you have like a sewer line that goes and now you have to pay 12 grand because the sewer line goes underneath the concrete and they have to dig and stuff. So everyone's situations are different. And so you have to be able to map everything out and consider as many things as possible. And that's what I did. And that's why this second deal just worked out well for me. But it's also not going to be everyone else's like cup of tea.
Yeah. I think that's important though, because again, I think it's hard for people to imagine buying something with negative cash flow. But if you're in a appreciation market and you also know you have economies of scale with what you're doing in midterm, but like you said, you're still running your numbers as a long term, which is very safe. Like when I'm flipping, I'm just running my worst case scenario, and that's what I leave in the spreadsheet until I crush it. And then it looks like I made like 100 grand, but I was just being very cautious. Like if everything goes wrong, I'll make 50 grand. I don't think it's all going to go wrong, but I'd rather make 150. But you don't want to say you're going to, it's just, you can't count on the midterm. And then you if you're counseling someone like a friend who wants to do it, and then you see the furniture that they put in and you're like, well, that's not going to work. Like this is a different breed like that you just got that all from the street, which is occasionally there is good stuff, but that's not really what midterm and short term are looking for. I mean, the interesting thing though, is you don't have to be as nice for midterm as short term or as flashy, I would say, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like the bar is not that high in the midterm rental space because those who midterm rentals are not anything new, but it's just hasn't reached the peak of short-term rentals where everyone's doing it. So then everyone has to elevate their game, their listings, their professional photos, amenities.
It's not a getaway though. You know what I mean? A midterm rental is not a getaway. You're not going on vacation and really need that. A lot of it is you're going for work, or insurance has displaced you and now you need a place. You don't care. It's just like, is it clean? Yeah, this sounds great. Can we fit our stuff in? So that's a really good point. But you're obviously taking it to a little bit of an upper level so that they're extra comfortable, which means repeat business or clients who will tell them, tell other people like, hey, that place was great.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at, let's say if you go on Furnish Finder or anywhere else and you look at all these other listings, sometimes it's even worse than some of these. It's bad.
Yeah.
They have crooked photos, super dark. The decor is really bad. The listing description has like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
And everything across the board is just really bad. So it's not hard actually to do better than everybody else.
That's a really good point. You're like you said, you are a bigger fish in midterm right now than short term. Maybe that will change as a lot of people exit short term, but I still think with the experience content, you can fall somewhere between in your spend on the amenities. And like you said, go over this before we get to arbitrage though, because I know you've talked about parking, laundry, pets. Those 3 are really important for midterm rentals in terms of like getting your vacancy and being in demand, right?
Absolutely. PPL, pets, parking, laundry. And at the end of our listings, it says pets, parking, laundry, 2 bed, 1 bath plus office, pets, parking, laundry.
Yeah.
And there at least, about half of the midterm rental travelers have pets.
Yeah.
Pets are an extension of your family.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I'm sure people love their pets more than they love like their children. But in any case, right? And so
depends on the pet and child, but yeah.
That's true. And imagine if you have a large pet that's like a 70, 80-pound dog, right? Or if you have 3 cats or 3 dogs, about 30% of the listings that are out there allow pets. So there's a huge discrepancy, right? And so the way that I like to tell people to think about is we always need to go into what is the most conservative situation, underwrite as a long-term, and then you need to have amenities so that if it does become super saturated, what is going to separate you from everybody else, right? And so if everyone has to lower their price equally and my great midterm rental versus your not so great midterm rental, in a saturated market, we have to lower our prices. So now it's the same. I'm going to get booked because I'm allowing pets. I have professional photos, great listing descriptions. I'm putting in-unit laundry if possible. And I'm making sure that there's always, always, always free off-street parking. If not off-street parking, at least on-street parking has to be there with minimal obstacles as possible, right? And so that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else. And that kind of protects you from saturation too. If you're just doing it better and you have the amenities, they're going to book you instead of somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that's very, very important.
Yeah. All right. This one we've talked about it before, but I really want to get these last 10 minutes on the arbitrage because you've really created this very, very interesting arbitrage that I don't think people have thought of because there's also a long-term aspect to it. So tell us how you started the arbitrage and then how you've stayed in this thing. I think it's going to be really interesting. I don't know anyone who's done this way.
Yeah. So in the beginning, what I would do is I would go on Zillow and try to message everybody, whether it's a realtor, property management company, whatever it may be. And you got nothing because it seems like you're a scam saying, hey, rent is going to be not paid. If we paid rent early, then that means we were late because we set it on auto pay, 3 weeks in. Like, turnover cleanings are immaculate and we're going to take care of your place because if it's not, it affects our business. So we 100% are anal about all that, and so
it does sound like a scam though. To a landlord who's never heard of arbitrage, I mean, it sounds scammy. So how did you get through that?
Yeah, I realized property management companies and realtors, they just didn't respond. And especially if it's through text, super duper scammy that you do that, right? What the heck is this?
Right. Yeah. And also send me a message on WhatsApp. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I discovered was you have to find the property owners that are self-managing. And then in every single listing, there is typically rental listing. There's always something that is missing, whether it's who pays the electricity, the parking scenario, the gas, the cooking gas, the heat, whatever it may be. So you need to look for that one thing they're missing from the listing. If it's a fantastic listing and everything is accounted for, one of the things I'll say is, oh, the parking, is it covered or is it uncovered? And it's really just a way to throw some bait out there.
Yeah.
Right. And so I created my own Zillow listing, has my income, my great credit score. So I looked like this great tenant who is interested. I am obviously interested. I'm just not going to be the one living there, but I will be your tenant. And I message them, and then so they'll answer. Right. And so I'm messaging them from an account where it's a great tenant prospect, and then about something super detailed that shows that I am paying attention
to that listing. Yeah.
Afterwards, and I say, oh, I love this property. I would love to come and either tour the property if available, or I'd love to hop on a phone call with you to discuss further. And so what we ended up doing was, after some trial and error, I hopped on a phone call and told them, hey, this is me. This is what we do. We rental to travel medical professionals and corporate workers, and, give them kind of like the whole spiel, and, tell them, we're a real business and we can even come, in person and tour. And so afterwards we did that. It's not going to be the same case for everybody else, but they were like, all right, well, you guys are a business. I see your website. I don't think I'll be doing a credit score because you're a business. And he showed it toward it. And he said, oh, when can you start? So kind of got that ball rolling.
But how many units were in this? Because this is where it all gets interesting. This is a smaller apartment complex, right?
Yeah. So it's 3 buildings. It's 28 units. So it's not the largest, but it's like a good medium size. Yeah. And, the owner is 70 years old. His grandma actually built that entire complex years ago. And so, we wanted to show him that we were serious, right? And so he had that apartment available for us. We furnished it and all that stuff. And he's not used to anything, like what we do. So after we furnished, we were like, hey, come on by. Look at what we do. He came in, he was blown away, like, oh my gosh, this apartment used to be a mess.
Yeah.
I cannot believe it looks like this, right? After our first turnover, we told him, hey, come on by. Our cleaners haven't even showed up yet. This is how the tenant left it. And he walked in and was like, did anyone even live here?
That's awesome, because he's used to 20 years of 27 different unit turnovers of them just leaving it a disaster.
Exactly. And so we were just making it real to him to show that this is a completely different class of tenants and people. And not only that, but, when you're in an apartment complex, all the other tenants talk and stuff. And then so the talk of the town ended up being that, oh, I wonder who's going to come in next. Last time it was a South Korean airline mechanic engineer. He came, for a project in Newark. Yeah. Oh, I heard it's a chef from Texas. He's getting closer to New York City. So he must be some big name guy, Yeah. And so, you turn it kind of into like a community thing. And one of my partners, like Frank, he was so excellent with people. And so he would go and sit coffee with Anne and Diane, with, talking about just things and building like a really good relationship with the tenants. And then so our tenants would say, hey, everyone is so nice to me here. Is this like typical of New Jersey?
It's really good.
No, but this apartment complex is, and especially Frank having a really, really good relationship with the owner and the owner's wife, who's the actual key in the relationship that other people won't, pick up on. It's just been spending time with them and talking about things other than real estate or like the apartments. Exactly. Just talking about life. Next thing you know, they see this proof of concept, right? Rent gets paid. We're the only ones where we pay rent on time plus early.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we have 2 more units. Do you want them? We're like, okay. So we took 2 units at the same time, furnished a 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom, barely finished on time. That second arbitrage, we finished with 1 hour to spare, and the tenant met us at the driveway. Like, I'm all sweaty because it's all August.
Yeah.
And then the third one, we finished with 10 hours to spare. And then recently we actually had our 4th one. The owner kept pushing us, saying like, hey, please take it. But we were really busy. I was renovating. My other partner, Dennis, was renovating his duplex. So we kind of pushed it. And finally we said, okay, we'll do it. So we ended up, now having 4 arbitrages in that 1 apartment complex. We didn't have to do anything. He just kept coming to us. And if anything, we already told him no to a bunch of other units.
Yeah, but it's the definition of win-win in real estate, because he knows that your tenants are better than his tenants. It's a little bit more wear and tear, but you've upgraded the unit and you proved him, hey, look what happens. There's really no wear and tear. Now you're at 14% occupancy of a 28 unit, all on arbitrage. So, I mean, your outlay is absolutely nothing. What happens with the security deposit on arbitrage? Do you guys lay that out for each of the units, or did he get it to be less on the other ones?
Oh, so, for him, became well, first we were getting in New Jersey 1.5 times the rent is your standard. Right. For us, the very first one, it was just 1 month's rent was a security deposit. Everything thereafter, he's actually been giving us a deal on that. For him, he wants to collect the market rent because in the town that he's in, there's rent control. So when he has 20-year-old tenants, he's never able to get market rent. So that's what he wants. That's okay. Cut us some slack on the security deposits. So he just collects very low security deposits. He removed all our pet fees. He removed our pet rent. And even recently, one of the apartments, so we have a first floor apartment and the second floor sometimes can be kind of loud. During one of our turnovers, he spent $2,600 putting sound insulation up on the ceilings. So to make sure that our tenants are taken care of and that they don't have negative experience, because now he sees the benefit of us and it makes his life a lot easier. And, he just has to call one person and that takes care of all the units, whatever it is.
Yeah, but imagine over the years how hard it's been for him just doing all the tenancies as they're getting older and they're trying to do it. Do they get a realtor? They do it themselves. He was obviously a FRBO, for rent by owner. That's a lot of work. Now he can just say, hey, James, do you want this one? And now you guys have the system so you can do it. But like we said before, you have so many other units that you have places to put people if something goes wrong. Oh, well, that's in a little bit of a different location. Well, we have 2 other units here. Oh, great. And then if those people are ever on a travel cycle, they may be a return customer when they have to come back in for the same thing. But we're closing in on the end. But before we get to the end, I want you to just lay out what's the overall goal potential of this relationship that you've built on the 28 unit? Because this, I think, is really, it's not like you did it on purpose, but it's a genius potential strategy because you're building a relationship.
Yeah, so the overall goal is to buy this 28-unit apartment complex, but not the traditional way, because the owner, his grandma built it, 0 on the mortgage. If he sells everything, retail, he's going to have to pay so much in taxes. Huge. His children don't want to manage it. They don't really even help him to begin with, so it's the buck kind of stops there. And we want to work something out where we could give him a down payment of whatever that's going to help him. And if he wants 30, 40-year terms, we'll give him whatever he wants so that his grandkids or his great-grandkids will be taken care of for forever, even after he's passed. So that's like the long-term goal. And we're going to do that by keep building a relationship. I know Frank actually went to dinner with them for like 2 hours the other day, just talking about life. And so that's the way we want to do it. It's not like we're going to present anything to him. We're just going to let it happen naturally. He's already coming to us. And so I think there's already a good chance that if we just sprinkle some information of we can help you out one day, if you want to sell or whatever, just sprinkling, things like that here and there, I think he'll end up coming to us. And if not, then, he might be just one presentation away from seller financing to us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's the full story. So I appreciate getting you on here. It's good to talk to you. Glad we met in person before and we were on the mastermind together. So where is the best place for people to find you and your guys' inventory?
For me, I'm active on social media, especially on Instagram, James_Hwang, HWANG.
You were just going to spell it like we were talking about before.
Yeah. We also have an Instagram page, Stellar Housing, but most of the content is just going to come through my Instagram anyways, and that's where I'm most responsive to. So it's the best way to reach out. We also have our website, stellarhousingsolutions.com, where it talks about all the things that we do, the things that we offer, and a portfolio. And
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate you coming on. Hopefully I'm going to see you in person soon since we do live so close.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a blast. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. That was James Hwang. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode.
Wait, you have reached the end of the show. This is the part where you're going to get ready to check out, but I've actually changed this part. For over 120 episodes, you heard the same thing. Well, now I've changed it. I've thought about doing intros to the next episode, but I'm going to hold off on that for now. These are my pitches at the end. I've got nothing to sell you at all, but I do want to remind you that it really would help us if you support the podcast in the right way. All that means is subscribing to the podcast so you get it on Monday and Thursday, writing us a 5-star review if you believe that we deserve a 5-star review, sharing it with your friends, and being a participant in the Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing community. Soon there's going to be a new website launched. Maybe when you're listening to this, it's already going to be out there. That's where we're going to have collaboration. You're going to be able to see a lot from the guest. It is coming soon, and I just want to tell you, from me to you, I don't know how I got here, over 100 episodes. I'm so appreciative of you listening to the podcast and especially sticking around to hear this part. We'll see you next episode.